Well, don't get me wrong. I mean, this country drives hundreds and hundreds of billions of miles a year. And so when you see uptick in gas prices, that affects every single person, even if you don't drive cars. And the reason being, from the business standpoint, you have shipping companies. When was the last time you drove down the road and you saw no trucks? They're always on the road, and those things, those things are not very efficient. It costs a lot of money to run those things, so that definitely, it has. And those trucking companies don't have big margins where they can sit there and take big hits like that. So it gets passed on to the consumer. It's inflationary. So it's obviously a big impact there. In terms of the actual dollar value, I'm always intrigued from the personal standpoint because I'll hear people complain about gas prices for their own personal spending. Like, oh, I drive down the street, it costs me $4. If you really look at it, the average consumer drives 12,000 miles a year. At $4 a gallon versus $2.50 a gallon, because back when it was $2.50 a gallon, nobody really complained. They were all fine. Yeah, it was creeping up a little bit, it was okay. You're looking at a difference about $600 a year in terms of gas increases. It's about $50 a month. I'm quite sure anybody, even making $9, $10 an hour, can spare $50 a month out of their pay. I'm not trying to sit there and say it's okay and it's acceptable, but I think, from that perspective, you can always find ways to help yourself, curb yourself. You can always carpool, things like that really help a lot. It hurts the economy from the shipping standpoint, even from the consumer side. But remember, we got away with low gas prices for a very long time. In the late 70s, when we had the gas crisis, the average car was getting 7 miles per gallon. Now we're getting 21. I mean, we had triple our efficiency. And if you look at inflation adjusted for gas prices, we're still below the inflation adjusted gas prices of 1970 and 1979. So really, we were just spoiled for a 2-decade period. I remember when I started driving in 1997, I remember paying 78 cents a gallon at one point at the Speedway in Akron. And that was 78 cents a gallon. I mean, that's equivalent to 30 cents a gallon back in 1978. So we've been spoiled by a long run of low gas prices. It's trying to catch up a little bit. I personally think that we overshoot, we undershoot. When gas prices hit 140, I was a believer in way too high. When it went down to $40 a gallon, $40 a barrel, I thought it was way too low. I bought a lot of oil back then. It fell to 30, and now it's back up again. So there are fluctuations. I don't know where it should be, but I know there's certain. The great thing about investing is there's certain overreactions, underreactions. I think right now, because we've been hit so quickly, so fast, it's a lot more impact. I mean, 7 years ago when gas prices went to $2.25, people were crying up a storm like, oh, this is terrible. Now $2.25 is okay. It's manageable because you're just accustomed to it. So does it hurt? Sure. But remember one thing, it's like everything else, locomotives, there's a reason why Warren Buffett bought Burlington, the train company. It's a fraction of the cost to ship things through train. Those things are massively fuel efficient. So with these problems comes more innovation, comes more solutions, comes alternative ways of saving prices, things like that. And we're just going to adjust that way. Does it hurt? Absolutely. I would never deny it hurts, but it's all a matter of it being relative. We got away with it for 20 years. Now we're catching up to it again, and people just have to change in terms of, hey, do I go out to eat one less time a month and pay for the gas? I think that ends up being it. And in the long run, you carpool, things like that. It ends up working itself out. But in the short term, it's very annoying, and I understand that.